First-time RV buyers, you're going to get all your questions answered. Questions like, should you pay sticker price? When's the best time of the year to buy an RV? What are the specific questions you need to ask so you can protect yourself against buyer's remorse? This is a candid conversation with PJ from the RV dealership Princess Craft. Some of the most important advice that PJ gives is at the very end of this video. So watch every minute because you don't want to miss any of these tips. PJ, I want to thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate your time. And you too also have a YouTube channel, or Princess Craft does. And
Yes.
4 years ago, you did a video tour of the Little Guy Max. And I saw that video, and that was my first introduction into learning about the Little Guy Max. So I want to really thank you for that.
Absolutely. You know, those are so fun for me to do. I'm glad it's useful. That's why we do them.
If somebody isn't familiar with PJ and Princess Craft RV, will you give us the quick lowdown on you and the dealership?
The dealership has been around as a dealership for about 25 years. We have always specialized in truck campers and small trailers because that's what we knew and loved. And it really worked for us that part of the market has exploded the last 10 years. And so that's what we do here. We help people all over the country find the right trailer for them.
Well, I'm sure that you've helped a lot of people buy their first RV. And so when we're talking about first-time RVers, what's one or two things that you would recommend for anybody to consider before they even make a purchase?
Here's what I like to tell people who are starting out. First of all, make the list of all the things that you wish you had. Very often, once you do that, you'll see that you can't have all of those. Yeah, that just isn't feasible. Like, I want a walk around bed. I want it to be under 3,000 pounds. I want it to have a large shower, a separate toilet and shower, and I want it to be under $20,000.
You can't make that happen?
You know, that's tough.
Yeah, it is.
It's tough to do. But yeah, there may be something out there that checks 4 out of 5 boxes. So once you make that list, then back it up and figure out what are the real must-haves.
Yeah.
What are the ones that will make it an enjoyable camping experience? And once you get that pared down to, look, I just need a walk around bed and I need a bathroom that I can move around in. Or maybe someone is more worried about storage and they say, look, I want a place for my winter coats and boots because that's what we do. So that's important to me. Once you pare that list down, then you've got another step to take. Here's what I suggest. Get your calendar out. Plan those trips on your calendar. What you really are going to do. Is it more weekend trips or is it that 3-month once in a lifetime trip? Mm-hmm. And most people haven't thought that far. And once you do that, you may realize, wait, the reality is we're only going to use it 5 times a year and it's going to be 3-day weekends. Maybe I don't need all that storage. Maybe we'd be okay without a walk around bed. Maybe that outside kitchen is more important than we thought. So both of those things will get your feet on the ground for looking at a trailer. And that, I think, is a great start.
Now, I've heard it said that you should buy from a local dealer or somebody that's in close proximity to your location. Is that true, or does it really matter how far away your dealership is from you?
Well, that's a really good question. And, you know, I wish there was a right answer. I wish there was a perfect answer. But the first thing is find the trailer that you want. Once you find the trailer, you won't have 10 options in your city. You will have one, and if you're really lucky, there will be 2 within the vicinity. I always recommend picking the trailer and then determining if that dealership is one you want to work with, because working with the dealership is so important to the next step. But there are some issues with that. The reason people say buy from your local dealer is because dealers often say, you didn't buy from us, we're not going to fix it for you. That's where the local dealer can help you. However, if you have a bad experience at your local dealership, do you really want to do that?
No.
So, yeah, I don't know. Who your dealership is makes a difference. And I guess this is where people often buy from far away for what? What's your first guess? Why would somebody drive to the next state to buy?
Boy, I'm going to say maybe because of the service and you're getting all the information and they're just forthcoming with everything.
And, we do get a lot of customers that come here because they want to work with us just because of that reason. And I know that sounds like a commercial, but that does happen. The number one reason, though, that people travel is price. Now, we're not the cheapest, but there are people that in the business, we call them wholesalers. Now,
Okay.
wholesalers, that doesn't mean they're actually wholesaling it, but they want you to think that. They are people that you will see advertise, we're the cheapest out there, and they have really cheap prices, and just come pick it up, and sometimes they deliver as well. So there is a reason to do that. If it saves you $1,000, $2,000, maybe $5,000, what you're getting is somebody who doesn't run a service department, doesn't have a support staff for you. What they usually have is a delivery service. You pick it up, you drive it home, and then you deal with it. And they don't need a service department because that is not what their model is built on. That is kind of the trade-off that you have to decide if that works for you, if you find something that's a little cheaper online. But buying locally, if there is a dealership that you know and trust, absolutely, it is worth paying a little bit more to have them right there taking care of you. That is just a huge investment.
I would appreciate and pay more for somebody that's going to help and support me after the sale instead of just a one-off shot.
Well, it's tough to know. It's if you ask a dealership if they have good service, you guys have good service after the sale, do you think anybody is going to say, no, not really? So you have to know that you can't ask and get an answer. You have to search online. You have to look and see what the reviews are. Walk in and see if you like being there. See if they're responsive. See if you feel comfortable. You can ask them about their service. You can ask about wait times. Wait times are very often problematic now. And so get a feel for what it's going to feel like dealing with them. If that feels good, then that's a great place to buy.
I think reviews is a good place to start because you then can hear the experience from other people. And I'm sure you're going to have reviews from the good and the bad, but it's good also to get a mix because everything doesn't always go smoothly, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it is an RV. It's not a car. And somehow cars are delivered with less issues than RVs. And I wish I didn't have to say that out loud, but the manufacturers lead and tell you that too. It's a different process. So there may be things that need tweaking. So always ask to figure out how you would do that if the dealership's not next door, because that's important.
Great takeaways there. Thank you. Next thing, let's talk about price. When I first walked into the dealership, I didn't know if the sticker price is the price or if there's any room for negotiation. And I'm sure this is going to vary from dealership to dealership, but as a general rule, is the sticker price the purchase price that I'm going to be expected to pay?
$1 million question. And it's of course a long-winded answer.
Okay.
It depends on what the dealership is posting. Right now, people are paying MSRP. Honestly, I paid MSRP for a car 6 months ago. And who did that 2 years ago? No one. But there are dealerships who are sticking to that MSRP. And MSRP stands for Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price. I would say 2 years ago, you would always negotiate off that price. Because of the shortage and the high demand, some people are selling at that price, but for the most part, there still is negotiation. Now, every dealership does it differently. I think it's important for a buyer to understand the thought process when you're talking to a dealership. Some dealerships will say, well, this, let's say, has a sticker price, an MSRP of $30,000, but we're selling it today for $28,900. If you say, okay, I don't think I'm interested, and they say, hold on just a second, let me see what I can do for you, and they get up to go talk to a manager, then that salesman is not in charge of the price. he's going to talk to the manager to see if he can offer you less. Or he's just going to act like he's talking to the manager to offer you less. I don't know. But then he may come back and say, we have this program going, so if you do this and this and this, you can get it a little cheaper. That means their prices are negotiable just like a car, similar to a car dealership model. There are dealerships, and we are one of them, where our salesmen, we have a discounted price, and that price is what we sell at. There is no going to the manager because, honestly, Randy, I would have to be that manager, and I don't want to do that. And in RV dealerships, it's very difficult to know what you're looking at until you ask. So you shouldn't pay MSRP in this day and time. Sometimes you will, but for the most part, there is negotiation there. It's just a matter of how much.
Okay, thank you for being so candid about that. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
So is there a better time of the year to buy, or is there a worse time of the year to buy, or doesn't the time of the year even matter?
Really, what matters often is supply and demand. So right now there is so much demand and very little supply that if you find what you want, there's probably not a better time of year. And that brings in, in the environment that we're in right now, with prices changing so much, they're not going down. So if you're thinking, I'm going to wait 2 years to see if the price changes, you're losing 2 years of camping time.
Well, that was something I was thinking about, because if I waited 2 years, I can't imagine taking away 2 of my camping years I've already had.
I know.
The experience of being out there is just what it's all about.
That's right. And prices won't go down in general. They just won't. They may stabilize, but they're not going to go down. The next thing, I think, if you're trying to find the right time to buy, people think RV shows are the right time to buy. At RV shows, most of the prices are what you could get at the dealership. It's just going to get you a free cooler or a little perk of some kind. But the RV shows, you get to see everything. Sometimes, just like in car dealerships, you might be able to get a little bit of a better deal if it's at the end of the month or the end of the year. For the most part, a lot of times the best time to buy is whenever you're ready and whenever they have the product. You don't see a seasonal fluctuation.
Well, I know you've mentioned this, but we're in crazy times right now as far as we've got so many buyers, and then we've got parts that can't be obtained. And I hear all of this, and I don't know how much of it's true, but I would imagine you've just seen some crazy times.
Absolutely. I told somebody today, we very rarely get a load in that isn't missing something. Things show up and they're like, yeah, we shipped that. It doesn't have shades, but as soon as they come in and we have extras, we'll get them to you. It might say, okay, these switches aren't there, but, we'll send them as soon as we get them. We don't have TVs right now, or we're missing the bracket, but the dealership can put that in when the bracket arrives. I mean, just crazy things.
That must be really frustrating, both from your perspective and from the buyer perspective. Both of you must just, want to pull your hair out some days.
Oh, absolutely. And can you imagine a customer that's been waiting 6 or 8 months for a trailer, and I have to call them and tell them, I have your trailer, but it doesn't have any shades.
Oh, man.
But if you want it, you can come get it.
Oh, shoot.
But, that is the world we have right now, and we don't want them to miss camping either. And on that note, if that happens to buyers, you have to realize that the manufacturers are trying to get the trailers moving, because if they save 200 trailers waiting for shades, then when the shades come in, they can't transport them but 3 or 4 at a time, or maybe 1 at a time. So then you're lined up for a month waiting on a transporter. So it's a no-win. It's a struggle right now. But you know what? We are making progress every day. We deliver a few more, so it's all good.
Well, you touched base on this a little bit, and I wanted to do a little teaser here and say, will you give us your predictions for the upcoming year coming up at the end of the video? Maybe you'll have a crystal ball.
I have no crystal ball, but I always have opinions.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I will be glad to share that with you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so somebody's come in, they're going to buy an RV. We know what we're paying for it. I know when I bought my RV, there were other costs. This is probably a silly question, but is there sales tax on an RV?
That is a great question.
Okay.
Yes, and sales tax varies. Sales tax on a travel trailer in most states is identical to a sales tax on a car. So I'm in Texas. So in Texas, we have sales tax and we have vehicle tax. So you pay vehicle tax on the trailer, which is slightly less than standard sales tax when you buy a shirt. That being said, there is that tax, the registration, those kinds of things. But can we talk just a little bit about other fees? Because that is really important for buyers to understand. If you want to sell a trailer, you're going to be trying to put out the cheapest price that you can, right?
Right.
Right? So when I get the trailer, I have a PDI cost. And what that stands for is pre-delivery inspection.
Okay.
So that pre-delivery inspection is going to be my technician going through the trailer, putting water in it, putting propane on it, putting a battery on it, making sure it is all good to go, doesn't have any leaks, and everything works, okay? Now, dealerships, if they want to advertise a lower price, they don't include that pre-delivery inspection in their price. So some dealers do and some don't. Now, it is simply, first of all, it is simply a different business model. And there is nothing wrong with doing it that way. But as a consumer, you need to ask, is the battery and the propane included, or do I have to pay for that? Because you don't want to go fill your own propane after you pick up the trailer or put in a battery.
Oh my gosh, PJ, I would never have thought about that. I'm thinking to myself that the RV battery isn't included. That doesn't even seem right to me, just personally.
Yes. Well, and so it always is included, but it's whether they charge you for it or not.
Oh, okay.
So it could be charged separately from the price of the trailer. And then sometimes the PDI is charged separate from that. And sometimes the battery and the propane is included in the PDI. You just don't know. But a lot of dealers will add that PDI charge. And then, very common, a lot of dealers will then also add a extended service plan as well. And then when you come in and sign papers, that's already on the papers and you simply sign them and walk away. And they may very nicely just say, oh, then there's this and there's this. And you wanted us to check out the trailer, right? Okay, well, that's all included. Well, you may not know all of that until you get to the paperwork. The car purchase that I told you about when we got there, it was a decent buying experience. We knew we were going to pay MSRP. We were fine. We had the car we wanted. We went in to sign papers, and there was a $1,700 fee on there for the service plan. It wasn't a very long service plan, but we were told, oh yeah, that's on every car here. That's just included. And that's not sure that's legal. I'm not an attorney, but that's very common because that provides a little more money for that deal. So they can add a service plan, they can add PDI fees, all of that. So be sure, if you're comparing pricing, be sure you ask for the out the door price. Because what you want to know is exactly what am I going to be writing a check for at the end of the day. And if you don't specifically ask it that way, sometimes you don't really see those extra fees until you've got your vacation planned and you're sitting at the closing table. And not that you should say, I'm not paying that, I need to walk away. I'm a huge fan of service plans, particularly on RVs. They really give travelers peace of mind and they help them when they really need it. But you ought to be able to make that choice. So be sure to ask what other fees are going to be included and what is my drive out price. That will help you compare apples to apples.
That's a gold mine of information. And that's interesting to hear the differences. I would never have thought about to ask those questions. In fact, I didn't ask those questions. But now I will next time, so thank you. Are service plans standard sometimes then the difference between, yes, you can get a service plan, but you may have to pay more for it, or a service plan included sometimes in a purchase price?
Service plans generally are not included in the price. It's a separate purchase that you will pay extra for. And service plans vary. You can buy a service plan somewhere else besides the dealership. However, I always recommend using the dealership service plan, because when you have a problem, that dealership should help you with that, okay? Because sometimes there's an issue with you can't find your number, you don't know where it is, or you have a question of what's covered. Now, we're in a world of lots of big conglomerates like Camping World, and they, of course, handle a Good Sam plan. So the Good Sam plan has a lot of perks to it, a lot of extra things that are connected. They're going to automatically put you in that plan when you purchase, usually at Camping World. And, you know, it's not a bad plan to have. Service plans, though, should be transparent. I had someone just today say, you know, I had a plan once, and when I was on the road and I needed immediate service, no one answered. And I said, of course, I was doing the paperwork because I'm filling in today. And I said, well, let's call them and find out. You know, honestly, until today, I had never called to do that. So we sat there and called. And they had all of these wonderful little, go here if you need this, go here if you need that. If you want to be reimbursed, go here. Or if you need to talk to someone, press this button. They answered, how can I help you? Right there. And it took me about 2 minutes to get through the prompts. So don't hesitate to say, I want to think about it. Can I buy it later? And then go research it online and go call them, because I promise you, they will sell it to you the next day after you've done your homework, if you want to buy it then. So take your time, ask them up front maybe, who is your service plan with, because I'd like to do some homework before I come in to buy my trailer. They should be giving you that information before your appointment, but just in case they don't, you can call and check on it.
But what are some of the things that people should make sure that a service plan does include?
I'm going to do a shameless plug because I am not a service plan expert. I've worked with Bill Coster for many years, and he is a service plan expert. So we did a podcast with him. But if you want to know the details of how to evaluate a service plan, he went through it with us. So I always refer people to our podcast, which is RV Small Talk, and look for the one on extended service plans with Bill Coster. The long story short is service plans are either an inclusive plan or they have a list of exclusions, an exclusionary plan.
Okay.
They either say, here's what we include, or they say, we include everything, see the exclusions. So his advice was ask the person selling it to you, what does it not include? And there should be a list of what is not included. What you should look for, very often awnings are not included. Very often seals are not included. A lot of times they won't cover TVs. Well, you may have a 32-inch, 12-volt television. That's a $700 television. So if those things are not included, it's important for you to know that.
Yes, I think it is very important to know that ahead of time. And I'm glad you brought up your podcast, because I'm a big fan. You, Lindsay, and Clint, you all get together and you talk about industry news. You give tips to RV newbies as well as advice, and talk about things that even seasoned RVers really need to know about. So I listen to your podcast every chance I get. Pardon me?
As a disclaimer, I have to say, sometimes we just have fun. And you know, it's probably a little less informative, but we decided that we have so much fun here. Sometimes we're just not in the mood to be as informative as we should be. So I just like to put that out there to say, hopefully it's a bit entertaining for you guys too, because Lindsay's laugh, if you've never heard Lindsay's laugh, you haven't lived.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Alone, right?
Yes, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And it really comes across that you guys enjoy what you're doing and laugh and have fun. And so it's just really fun to listen to. And I'll leave a link to that in the video description, as well as just a direct link to the episode that you just referred to. So we've talked about service. What about warranties? Now, are warranties kind of standard, or are they something that will cost you extra? Tell me about warranties.
Really good question. So here's the thing about warranties that I think most people, especially new people, don't understand. If you buy a car and they tell you that that warranty is, let's say, 2 years, you're assuming everything's covered for 2 years, right? Because the
Yes.
salesman said, and this one has a 2-year warranty on it, right?
Right.
Well, the way RVs work, there is no bumper to bumper because guess what? They don't have bumpers on both ends usually, only on one. But what it is that is the manufacturer warranty. So a manufacturer takes all these components and puts them all together. And so what they built, the cabinets, if the countertop comes separating from the wall, if the ceiling ducts down, if something peels away, the manufacturer built that, they will warranty it. But that's what that 2-year warranty is. Your refrigerator, your water pump, your water heater, your stove, the lights, all of that, all of the mechanics is warranted by the person who made that little component. You may have a 2-year warranty on this, but that doesn't mean your water pump has that warranty. That water pump only has a 1-year warranty. So that being said, you want to consider that extended service plan because after that first year, almost all the components are not covered. And one more thing I like to talk about, and that is roofs. People are always surprised at roof warranties, but this roof has a 12-year warranty. Well, most roofs have a 10 or a 12-year warranty now, okay?
Okay.
What that covers, regardless of what the roof is made of, is if it literally deteriorates in place. It doesn't cover sags, it doesn't cover rips, it doesn't cover anything else except if while it's laying on top, it deteriorates. Most of those roof warranties will cover new material. It will not cover the labor to peel off the old one and put on a new one. So you need to understand this is a material coverage. It's not bad to have because what it's telling you is this roof material will hold up with a little bit of care and maintenance for 12 years. That's great information, but it won't make sure that your roof is replaced if it starts to deteriorate.
And when you say deteriorate, you mean it just completely falls apart?
Have you ever seen car seats in an old car that start to peel up and they crack up and look terrible?
Okay.
But that's what can happen. That's what can happen on a roof. The material just starts to degrade.
So if I have a warranty or something happens after I bought my RV, do I go back then to the dealer or where do I call the manufacturer or who would I be in contact for about any warranty work that may need to be done?
It's always best to call the dealership first.
Okay.
And with our customers, because so many drive a long way to come see us, we tell them to call us. And even if they're not nearby, we will try to assist them with the warranty that they need. Now, if there is somebody that is in their area that carries that product, they should be able to help you too. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, a lot of dealerships now are saying, if you didn't buy it from us, we're not going to work on it. And I guess I don't agree with that. I don't understand it. If you took a trailer there and did some warranty work and you realized they were maybe better than you thought, you might consider buying from them next time.
Right.
And pretty soon your trailer is going to be out of warranty and you will have a relationship with somebody who can help you. It's always good to try that locally if you can. But first, I always recommend calling a dealer that carries that product. If you can't get results, call the manufacturer. 5 years ago, you will find video of me saying, when you buy a Ford, do you call the factory for help? No, you call the dealership because really that's what ought to happen. But in this market, the manufacturers have realized that customers travel, and when they don't get what they need from a dealership, they are going to call the manufacturer. So most manufacturers have a customer service line. So if you do need their help, find their customer service line and give them a call. because they can either solve the problem for you or connect you with a dealer that can help you.
Good to know. Good information. What about financing? Somebody that's a first-time RV buyer, how much would they need to expect maybe for a down payment? And what kind of financing programs are out there for RVs?
Well, there are lots of different programs out there, but almost all financing is going to want 10% down. The rule of thumb is 10% down. Okay? Now, if you have great credit, there are banks out there who will loan 100%. So it's out there. You just have to ask. Most banks also, it's good to know that they don't have any prepayment penalty. So a lot of people are now using financing for, say, waiting for the stock market to change or a CD to mature. It doesn't mean that you don't have the cash. It maybe means that you want to kick the can down the road a little bit. Lots of rates will be very reasonable right now. Now, they're not as cheap as cars because cars are very easy to, for lack of a better word, repo. And if you're going to quit paying something, it's going to be your trailer before you quit paying a car. A trailer is considered a luxury item. The rates are 1 or 2 points higher. I will tell people, if you're considering financing, don't apply 15 places. Figure out where you want to buy your trailer and apply there. They're going to make it the easiest. We're seeing a lot of people now saying, I've had a relationship with my credit union forever, so I want to go there. Well, the credit union then has to call the dealership to get all the information about the trailer so that they can price it. And so you're doing all this middleman work. And then either you sign online and then you have to go get a check or they mail it. At the very least, there's a lot of communication you have to do. At the most, you may have to drive down there and sign for it and do paperwork before you go pick up your RV. And if you finance with a dealership, they do all that for you. You show up to pick it up, sign, and walk away. So keep that in mind and compare rates, but financing is easy. 10% will get you in the door with a decent credit rating.
And it can be all part of the process.
That's right. A good dealership will hold your hand and walk you through that. It should be painless. You know, most dealerships have credit apps online.
Okay.
You just open your computer, and fill it out online when you're sitting on your sofa, and they should get back to you really quickly.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. So let's talk about the fun. Oh, did we miss something?
Thing,
yes.
We see a lot of people who think that if they apply for financing, they have to buy it. Okay?
Okay.
So if you're a first-time buyer, you're not quite sure what you want to do, you can apply for financing. And that doesn't, most good dealerships will try to figure out your loan before you put a deposit down and before you actually commit to buying the trailer. That can happen. So if that makes you feel a little more comfortable, be sure to ask if they'll do that for you.
See some scenarios where that would be very beneficial because maybe you're wondering, will I qualify?
Yes.
And so instead of wasting maybe your time and out looking at all of these RVs and getting your hopes up just to find out at the end of the day, you can't get financing, that can be a big bummer.
That's really true. Really true. So a big help, especially for people who are nervous about how this will work.
All right, now to the fun part, delivery time. Well, let's back up.
Okay.
When I buy my RV, I don't drive off the lot with it that same day, do I?
No, and that is so surprising to so many people. They're like, wait, I have to come back? It's like, well, we need to check it out and we should get it ready for you. They're like, okay, well, I can wait a few minutes. And it just doesn't work that way. We have to fill all the tanks and we have to test everything. So it takes time. Yeah. So you've set a delivery date, and that delivery date could be the next day, or it might be 2 weeks. Then you show up, and the first thing that should happen is you should look at that trailer, be sure it looks really good, inspect it, and do what we call in the industry a walkthrough. So what happens is someone is going to do a walkthrough. Now, some dealerships will make it a technician. Some dealerships, it's the salesman. Our technicians do them because they're the ones who can answer all the detailed questions. And, some people are a deer in the headlights. They don't know what to ask, which is fine. And other people are engineers and they want to know where this wire is connected. So our technicians do all of that walkthrough, make sure you know how to operate everything. We do something a little different than most dealerships. We put all of our technical walkthroughs online on videos. It isn't unusual to find a technical walkthrough. So don't be afraid to use YouTube. And if you want to, look that up before you go pick up your trailer and it'll cue you in on what questions to ask. Like I saw that on the video, but I don't really understand what that handle does. So that's one thing to do. But then once you see the trailer, you'll move on to doing paperwork. You'll get a parts walkthrough, and don't rush it. It takes a few hours at least to pick up a trailer, and then they'll pull it out front and show you how to connect it. That's how we do it here. Everybody's a little bit different, but all those steps should be in the day of delivery.
No, that's fantastic, especially for first-time buyers. You don't really know what to do the minute you drive off the lot and how to hook up to sewer and fill the water tanks.
Yes. So
you have to know those things. You don't have to, you can figure them out, but it's a lot better if you know them ahead of time.
Yes, but I'll tell you, there is no substitution to simply doing it. So I know people get nervous, but this is not brain surgery, okay? There is nothing bad that you're going to do. Just take your camper out, and when you have a question, ask someone, because you can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just you may have a question. And if you do, get an answer to the question. YouTube's invaluable. I also tell people when you drive off, you're going to have white knuckles for 15 minutes. So just count on it. Everybody does. Even experienced people who are used to towing, when you're towing something new, you're going to be a little nervous. That's okay. Towing a trailer, it isn't something that you're born with. It's something you learn.
Yep, and practice makes perfect.
And yes, drive carefully and you'll be fine. You'll be really surprised how quickly it becomes easy.
Well, I had told my viewers I was going to have this conversation with you, and I had 5 questions that they asked me to ask, and so I want to do that. But first, I'd love to get your prediction. How far do you think prices are going to rise in 2022?
Oh, good question. Well, first of all, it's going to depend on the model, because one of the most volatile prices right now on the market is aluminum. For trailers like the Intex that we sell that are a caged aluminum frame, those are seeing a lot of changes. It is not uncommon for trailers to have gone up about 20% in the past year. I do think we will see a little bit more rise. I don't think it's going to be another 20%, but I would not be surprised if the average trailer gets another 5% hike. Let's see, where are we? November? You're going to get another hike maybe in the spring, maybe late spring, but prices generally change in August or September when the new models come out. So I think you'll see a little bit of a hike late spring, mid-spring, because prices continue to go up. And, manufacturers just cannot absorb this. I had one manufacturer tell me, you know what, I just cannot work for free for 3 months. I have to raise prices right now because otherwise I'm out of business. That's what these guys are facing. Shortages and high demand make building more expensive. So we are all struggling with this. So I think you'll see another hike in the spring, and then 2023 trailers that come out in late summer, early fall, another price hike then. Both of those I expect to be at least 3 to 5%.
Well, that's really telling. And I think you had talked about this and mentioned this before. When you're ready to buy, that's the time. Prices aren't going to go down, unfortunately.
And if you want something for next summer, you need to be looking now, because it takes some time. If what you specifically want is not on the lot, it's going to take some time. So yeah, you'll want to jump in and figure that out. You may have to put something on order.
Are you finding inventory to be still a struggle, or is inventory becoming something that you've got, a lot of selection on the lots now?
I have some selection. I definitely wouldn't call it a lot.
Okay.
But some of the larger dealers have a little bit more, because a lot of it is because there are now private labels. Do you know what private labels is?
I have no idea.
Okay. It is now a thing in the RV market. So a private label is a brand that has been basically renamed and run down a line to be sold only at specific dealerships. I'm trying to think of an example that I can say, but an RPod. And I don't know that there are any private label RPods, but I'm just using that. An RPod by Forest River, they could private label that to, let's say, Camping World. So they will change the decals, maybe change the interior colors, run it down a line right next to it or the same line, quit making RPods and make this private label. And they will call it a 2022 Wind Flyer. And so the Wind Flyer is going to be a different trailer, but it's going to have the same framing, the same layout, the same features as an RPod, but it's a Wind Flyer. Okay? And that Wind Flyer is only available at Camping World. So there's nothing wrong with this, but some of those products are now out there because larger companies can partner with a manufacturer for a private label. I think it's good for people to know whether what they're looking at is a private label or not, because that means only Camping Worlds will be able to service that brand. And they're partnering with Camping World on that brand. And I don't know that that's a bad thing. I just think it's something that people ought to know. Now, as far as whether we have a lot on the lot, we have a little of everything. If you find a salesman that you like or a product that you like, check in with that dealership and get connected with somebody who will look for it for you if they don't have it right there, because we have a lot of things that are not on our lot right now and not a lot of availability that I see in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay, the first question is from Esther, and Esther asks, I've been hearing horror stories about people needing repairs, oftentimes warranty, and can't get into their dealer for months. And in the north, most people only camp from May to October. If you have a 2-year warranty, one season may be totally a write-off. This has kept her from buying a new travel trailer. What would you say to Esther?
Oh, Esther. Well, I'd love to say, Esther, that you are wrong, but it is not uncommon in this industry for dealerships to be backed up in their service department anywhere from a few weeks to months. And it's not because they're bad dealers. It is because there is so much demand and you only have so many technicians. We can only go as fast as we can go. The other piece to that right now is parts. It's hard for us to get parts. I have 2 trailers without canvases, and they are running down the line putting canvases on, but they have no extras. So they won't send me parts. So my trailers will sit here until there is enough canvases for me. That's unfortunately a general trend, but especially right now. But what I will say is there are things that don't work. Like, let's use the water pump as an example. There are workarounds to a water pump that doesn't work, okay? Just don't use your water. Now that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But a 5-gallon tub on your counter and a campground with a nice bathroom, you might be fine and be able to use it to some degree. Schedule an appointment for 2 or 3 months out and don't miss the whole season. Unfortunately, that is part of the world that we live in. But that's where partnering with a good dealership can help you. And just keep in mind, they're going to do the very best they can do. I would not let that stop you from buying a new camper, because you know what? Old campers, new campers, they all can have a problem. They all can have a part that breaks. Hopefully a new camper would have less breaking parts. That's what one hopes. Yeah. And you know what, Randy? Can I get a little long-winded here? We had talked
absolutely
about coming with trailers. There now is what people will call forever warranty. That is a company that started, and it is included, they'll say it's included in every unit that we sell. But be sure to read the fine print, because what that means is that you have to take it in every year. You have to do their maintenance program. You have to pay them to check it every year. Otherwise, that warranty goes away. And then if they recommend a repair, you have to do the repair. So it is a built-in way for dealerships to have a selling point that there's a forever warranty and hook you for life to coming back to see them. So I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying you just need to understand if there is a warranty that comes with the camper that sounds too good to be true, ask the fine details. What's included, what's not, what if I don't come to see you? You know, the salesman is there to help you. So ask all the questions you can think of.
Ask questions, right? Don't
Yes.
stop asking lots of questions.
That's their job, is to answer all of your questions. Some people have 2, some people have 200.
Okay, the next
What's the
question
next question?
is from Denise, and she says, I'm going to be looking for a used Little Guy Max in 2022. There's a lot of chatter about COVID campers flooding the market with used RVs. What's your sense of this and your prediction about COVID campers?
Well, here's my prediction on COVID campers. I believe 2 things. First of all, I think the people during COVID that said, I want a camper, I'm going to try something new, you know, a lot of them like it. A lot of them enjoy it. They realize the value. So if there is a percentage of people that are going to be saying, yeah, I'm done with this. It was fun maybe, but maybe not so much. We are seeing a little bit of that already, but it's not that much. There is a little bit out there. And it's usually people saying, I'm going to maybe change to a bigger trailer. Or this was fun, but I want something a little different. That's common. There will be some new used trailers out there in the next year. However, I do not believe that there is going to be huge market flood, because there is not going to be a precipitating event, as they say, that's going to make everybody throw their hands up and say, I'm done with my trailer. We need to sell it right now. That urgency is not going to be there. So you're not going to see a huge flood. You will see some used ones trickling through the market. So if you want a used one, there will be some out there. Keep this in mind though. Those prices are not going to be all that cheap. They're only going to be slightly less than what's out there now. So you're buying a used unit and you're buying one without a warranty. I don't know. If you're thinking you want one sometime next year, start looking now. Know what your threshold is on the deal. What is a good deal to you? Because for some people, buying a used one and saving $2,000 is fabulous. And for other people, they want 40% off. I don't think that's going to happen.
Those days are not going to happen. Okay.
Not for a 2, 3, 4-year-old camper.
Okay.
You're not going to buy it at half price. So
Okay.
keep in mind what that threshold is and start looking now. You might come upon one.
And you mentioned that a warranty may not come with the used RV. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, 99% of the time, even if it's a 2-year-old RV with a 3-year warranty, doesn't come with it. Now, there are extended warranties. If you are looking on the used market, ask them if this camper that you're looking at has an extended warranty, because most extended warranties are transferable. So you can work that into your deal.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Jackie says, are dealerships okay when buyers bring in a RV inspector prior to finalizing the sale? And is the dealership okay with fixing anything that an inspector might find?
If a dealership is not okay with an inspector coming in, don't buy from them. That's crazy. We have inspectors come here all the time. It's not hard. Sometimes they ask that we put it in a spot where we can plug it in. If a dealership is really customer friendly, they should help you with that. Don't let them make you feel small for asking. Don't let them say, oh no, yeah, we check them out, so you don't need to do that. No, if you want to do that, do it. I don't think it's worth it on a new unit. but I do think it's worth it on a used one. Absolutely. And whether the dealer decides to fix the things that the inspector finds, that is another negotiation. So know that if they say it needs these 5 things to be in perfect shape, because that's what you've asked an inspector to do, you might want to evaluate whether you could maybe do some of that yourself, or whether you're okay with buying it that way, or whether you want to ask the dealership to fix it. It is exactly like buying a house. You are back to the drawing table after you get that inspection report. And if you put a deposit down on that unit before you sent the inspector in, then you need to be sure that when you put that deposit down, ask if it's refundable. And if they say, nope, no refunds, then maybe you then want to ask if the inspector can come before you put your deposit down.
That's really good information. Thank you. William asks, what tow vehicle is best for a travel trailer under 25 feet and under 5,500 pounds? And I know that that's a loaded question because there's a lot that goes into tow capacity and understanding what can tow what safely. But do you have any suggestions for him?
Oh, Randy, we could talk for hours on tow vehicles. My goodness. That's it.
Yeah, I know it's a big question. In fact, I've got a video coming up in this series, Make Memories Not Regrets, that we're going to talk all about this. So I'll have you covered there, William. But do you have any ideas off the top of your head for him?
Well, I would say, when you talk about something under 5,500 pounds, my guess is you're looking at towing something between 4,000 and 5,000. And if you've got a trailer that's between 4,000 and 5,000, then you need a 7,000 tow capacity. If you have something that's 3,000 to 3,500, maybe even 38, you can go with a 5,000 or 5,500 towing capacity. And that's kind of a general rule. You always want to look at, are you going up hills? Are you going to ski resorts? Or are you, traveling from here to grandma's house and back? That being said, I would say, half-ton trucks are always the best. Just be sure you look at tow capacities. We have some really low tow capacities. Fords are number one in towing still and have been for decades, if you compare apples to apples. If you happen to like other trucks better, then it's a matter of comfort. If you don't want a truck and you want an SUV, there are so many choices. Something as nice as a Ford Expedition is going to have a solid tow capacity. Their towing packages are really good and they make a great trailer. There's, people are loving all kinds of vehicles, but something basic like that, those SUVs are going to tow just fine, as long as you get 1,000-pound spread between what you're towing and your tow capacity. I will tell you, one of the trickiest things we see here is a Highlander. Oh. Highlanders show that, who doesn't love a Toyota? I don't know. I think they're great cars. But we have found with the Highlander, they have different tow capacities, and it's a little tricky to figure out what you have. And they're just not top towing vehicles if you get too close. We have a lot of people who want to tow a Max, which is about 3,200 pounds, with a Highlander that's 5,000 pounds towing capacity. It's a bit of a struggle for some reason with that vehicle. Very popular. So not one of my recommendations if that's the scenario that you're looking at. They just have had some unhappy customers with those. Past that, almost everything else, that if the tow capacity has got some spread in it, you'll be good. Pick something that's comfortable.
Good advice. Good advice. Suzanne asks, can you just quickly touch base on the process if you do have a used RV that you want to trade in?
Yes. First thing, if you're talking to a dealership on the phone and you ask them, hey, can you give me an idea of my trade-in? If they say no, not unless you bring it into us. That's not great customer service. Okay? Don't let them bully you. All right? Ask for a range. Can you give me a range? And if the salesman is worth his salt, he will give you a range. Now that range might be somewhere between 15 and 20,000, but you will have an idea of where they are. So you'll know if you have a pristine RV, this trailer that he's looked up, it's going to be somewhere close to 20,000. You know, if it's a little smelly, you know, the dogs have spent a lot of time inside and there's a couple of things that need repair, you may be closer to 15. First of all, get a range on the phone so you don't waste your time.
Okay.
It's going to be less than you think, because guess what? A dealership has to make money, and we have to run it through our service shop and pay our technicians to do all those checkups before we're even going to put it out there for sale. Call around to 3 or 4 dealerships to see if you can get a range. Some people will give you a specific price. They'll say, yeah, we'll give you $22,000 for it. Well, they may not give you $22,000 when you get there. That's going to be good condition. The sign of a good trade-in is if that dealership asks you about it. Does it have good tires? Do you have any body damage? Is it smoked in? How's the interior? Would you call this okay, good, or best condition? How would you rate your RV? They ask you those questions. That will mean that they're giving you probably a reasonable amount. But there are dealerships who won't give you any number unless they see it. So be aware of that. No others will. Get 2 or 3 bids on your trade-in before you even take it somewhere to have somebody look at it.
Oh my goodness, PJ, all of this information has been so valuable. And I've learned a lot. So thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Well, you know, everybody just needs to not be afraid. Go out there, be armed and dangerous, and find something to go have an adventure in.
If people want to contact you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you? And are you on social media? How can they follow you?
Oh, you're so nice. I am on social media. My Facebook page is The Real PJ, and The Real PJ Burger. I'm getting corrected. Thank you. And I will tell you, it hasn't been very active because we have been so busy, but it's going to be. It's going to be. So check it out there. I'm going to try to give you kind of what's going on around here. And I always answer every question, and I return every phone call. So if you call Princess Craft RV and ask for me, you may have to press 9 to get just a general receptionist, but then ask for me, leave me a message. I will talk to anyone, help you with the question, and I may have to direct you to somebody else for more details. But yeah, so easy here at Princess Craft RV.
And I'll leave the website and your YouTube channel and the RV Small Talk podcast also in the video description below. So everybody be sure to check all of that information out.
Great. Well, you know, I just want to say, if you're watching this and you're a little worried about getting out there or the buying process, just get it started. If it feels right, you're at the right place and you have the right price and the right unit, go have an adventure. And if it doesn't, you're in charge. Back up and go somewhere else and try again.